I never wanted credit. I never asked for attention. All I wanted was to see my little brother happy on his big day. So when his fiancé's parents said they couldn't afford the wedding they had planned, I stepped in quietly and paid for everything. But on the wedding day, in front of 200 guests, his bride slapped me and told me to leave. She had no idea I was the reason the lights were on, the music was playing, and the flowers were blooming. So I walked out and shut it all down. What happened next, no one saw coming. My name is Alina, and I'm 27 years old. I've always believed that family comes first, especially when it comes to my younger brother, Jordan. He's 25, kind-hearted, and honestly, he's the only one in my family who never made me feel like I was less than. So when Jordan told us he was getting married to a woman named Vanessa, I was happy for him, at least on the outside. Vanessa came from a wealthy family and always acted like she was doing us a favor by being polite. She never said anything rude directly, but her eyes and her tone? Cold. Condescending. Like we were beneath her. Still, Jordan loved her. And I loved Jordan. So I kept my opinions to myself. A few months before the wedding, things took an unexpected turn. Vanessa's parents invited me over to their home, just to chat. I assumed it would be something about colors or seating charts. But instead, they sat me down in their lavish living room and said, "We've run into some financial roadblocks." Vanessa's mother gave a fake sad look and added, "We're considering postponing the wedding, unless someone else can step in to help." They didn't ask politely. They hinted, pressured, and it became very clear they wanted me to fund the wedding. I was stunned. Their house was filled with expensive furniture, luxury art, and a $4,000 coffee machine. Yet here they were, expecting me to save the day. And I did. For Jordan's happiness, for the smile I saw on his face every time he mentioned the wedding, I said yes. I quietly took out a loan against my savings and paid nearly $75,000 to cover everything. The venue deposit, the florist, the cake, even Vanessa's dream photographer. Yes, I paid for that too. I told the wedding planner to list me as anonymous sponsor. I didn't need credit. I just wanted my brother to have a day he'd remember. Vanessa had no idea. Neither did her parents show any gratitude. And even though she kept sending me away from meetings or pretending I didn't belong in the group photos, I kept smiling. I told myself it didn't matter. That one day, maybe she'd realize I had only ever wanted to help. But I was wrong. What happened at the wedding? I never saw it coming. The wedding day finally arrived. The venue looked like a dream. White flowers lined the aisle, soft music played in the background, and gold decorations sparkled under the lights. Guests started arriving in fancy dresses and expensive suits, smiling and taking photos like it was a perfect day. No one knew I was the one who had paid for all of it. I stood quietly near the back, wearing a simple blue dress, just as Vanessa had requested. She had made it very clear I wasn't allowed to wear anything fancy, or sit near her bridesmaids, or stand in the front for pictures. Her exact words were, "Let's keep the look clean and elegant." I understood what she meant. Still, I stayed calm. I smiled. I told myself, just get through today for Jordan. The ceremony started on time. Jordan looked so happy, standing at the altar in his tuxedo. Vanessa walked down the aisle with a proud look, acting like a queen. I wanted to focus on my brother, but then I saw something. One of the tall flower stands near the altar was tipping over. It looked like it was about to fall. If it did, it could hit someone or ruin the pictures. I quietly walked forward to fix it. That's when everything went wrong. Vanessa turned around and saw me near the flowers. Her face changed instantly. She walked straight toward me, fast and angry. "What are you doing?" she snapped. The flowers were falling. I was just... Slap. She hit me, right there, in front of everyone. The sound echoed. The guests froze. I stood still, shocked. My cheek burned. Vanessa pointed at me and shouted, "You've already done enough. Get out. You're ruining my wedding." No one moved. No one spoke. Not even Jordan. I swallowed hard. My hands were shaking, but I didn't cry. I turned around slowly and walked toward the exit. But just before I left, I stopped at the venue manager's desk. And I said clearly, "Shut everything down. I'm the one who paid for this wedding." The venue manager looked confused for a second, like he didn't believe what I had said. "Excuse me?" he asked softly. I looked him straight in the eye and repeated, "I'm the one who paid for this wedding. Every bill, every flower, every chair. Turn it all off." This time he understood. He gave a quick signal to the staff. Within minutes, everything started shutting down. The music stopped mid-song. The lights dimmed. The servers, who were just about to bring out the dinner, walked away with full trays. The cake table was quietly rolled to the back. Decorations were being taken down. Even the DJ slowly packed up his equipment. Guests looked around in confusion. Some asked, "What's going on?" Others stood up, whispering, watching the whole scene unravel like a slow, silent storm. Vanessa looked stunned. She walked toward the wedding planner, trying to keep her voice low, but I was close enough to hear. "What's happening?" "Fix it," she hissed. The planner replied calmly, "I was instructed to pause all services. The client has pulled the funding." "What client?" Vanessa barked. The planner turned and pointed at me. Her. All the color drained from Vanessa's face. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time, she looked powerless. And then Jordan showed up. He came running from the back, where he had been waiting with his groomsmen. His hair was slightly messy, his tie a little loose. He looked worried. "What's going on?" he asked the planner. The planner took a deep breath and said softly, "Your sister covered the entire wedding. She's the only client on record. She asked us to stop everything." Jordan turned toward me, confused and shocked. "Alina, what? You paid for all of this?" I nodded, but didn't say anything. He took a step closer. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd say no. And I just wanted you to be happy," I answered quietly. He looked heartbroken.
Guilty.
He glanced at Vanessa, then back at me. His jaw clenched. And he whispered, "I didn't know. I'm so sorry." But it was too late. The damage was already done. As the wedding fell apart, the room filled with awkward silence and low whispers. Guests looked around, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Some stood with confused expressions, others whispered behind their hands. A few older relatives began quietly gathering their purses and heading toward the door, unsure whether to stay or leave. Vanessa's parents were red-faced and clearly embarrassed. Her mother rushed over to the venue manager, waving her hands. "There must be a mistake. Restart everything. We'll take care of the payment." The manager looked at her calmly. "We've already been informed. There's an unpaid balance. Unless it's covered immediately, we can't continue." Vanessa's father pulled out his phone, made a few urgent calls, then quietly walked away, his face stiff, like a man trying to save his pride. But everyone could see it. They weren't prepared to pay. They never had been. A few guests approached my parents. One of my aunts said softly, "We didn't know your daughter did all this. She funded everything." My mother just nodded, wiping her eyes. An older uncle shook his head. "And she got slapped in front of all of us. That girl has more dignity than any of them." Every word made Vanessa and her family shrink a little more. I stood by the exit, not saying anything. I didn't have to. The truth had taken over the room now, and it was louder than any speech I could have made. Jordan stood near the altar, silent. He looked at Vanessa, then down at the floor. His hands were clenched at his sides. Finally, he walked up to the microphone that was still set up for the reception speeches. He tapped it once, and the quiet room turned toward him. "Everyone," he began, his voice strong but full of emotion, "this wedding is over." Gasps echoed through the room. "I can't marry someone who would treat my sister, the person who gave everything for this day, like trash." He turned to me. "Alina, I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I was blind." Then he looked back at the crowd. "Thank you all for coming. But this celebration is done." He stepped down from the stage and walked toward me. And without a word, we left together. The sun had just started to set as Jordan and I walked out of the venue. The cool air hit my face, and for the first time that day, I let myself breathe. Really breathe. Behind us, the wedding hall buzzed with the sounds of people packing up, guests leaving in silence, and vendors arguing with Vanessa's parents. But I didn't turn around. I didn't want to look back. Jordan stayed quiet as we got into the car. He gripped the steering wheel for a few seconds before finally speaking. "They told me everything was under control," he said quietly. "That her family was handling it all. I should have asked more questions." I shook my head. "You shouldn't have had to. It was your wedding. You should have been able to trust the people around you." He sighed deeply. "And instead, my fiancé slapped my sister in front of 200 people. And her parents tried to cheat their way into a luxury wedding." We drove in silence for a few minutes. I stared out the window, watching streetlights blur past, my heart still pounding from everything that had happened. Finally, Jordan spoke again. "Thank you." I turned toward him. "For everything. For saving the wedding when no one else would. For sacrificing your own peace to give me mine." His voice cracked a little. "I don't deserve it. And I don't think I ever deserved someone like Vanessa." I didn't answer. I just nodded. That night, we went back to our parents' house. My mom hugged me like she hadn't seen me in years. My dad said nothing, but he stood beside me the whole evening. Maybe he was ashamed that he hadn't asked questions, or maybe he finally understood the weight I had carried. Word of the canceled wedding spread quickly through the family. Some people called to ask if I was okay. Others texted Jordan to say he had done the right thing. But no one, not one single person, called from Vanessa's side. They had shown their true faces. And I had finally stopped hiding mine. The next few days felt like a quiet storm. Vendors started calling my phone, not to complain, but to thank me. They had heard what happened. Some said they'd never seen anything like it. A bride's family showing off wealth they didn't have, then walking away when things went wrong. One vendor told me, "If you hadn't paid up front, they would have walked out without paying a dime. You saved a lot of people from being scammed." That's when I learned the full truth. Vanessa's parents had made promises to everyone, big ones. Custom florals, imported desserts, luxury photo booths. But when it came time to actually pay for things, they kept saying, "Don't worry, it's already covered." But it wasn't. I was the one who had covered it. Quietly. Fully. Alone. And now that I had pulled out, all those payments were frozen. The vendors sent final invoices directly to Vanessa's family. 2 days later, I got word that Vanessa's father had tried using his business credit card to pay off some of the costs, but the charges bounced. One of the decorators told me he looked humiliated, said he'd circle back. He never did. Within a week, 2 vendors filed small claims lawsuits against the bride's family for breach of contract. Their names started to lose value in the local event community. People who once praised Vanessa's mother for her classy taste were now whispering about bounced payments and fake promises. As for me, I stayed quiet, but people noticed. I started receiving messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, friends, cousins, even a few past coworkers. One message read, "I heard what happened. I've never seen someone handle humiliation with that much grace. You turned the whole thing around without saying a word." Another said, "You should plan weddings for a living. You did what no one else could." I didn't plan to respond, but something about that last one stuck with me. For years, I had been working quietly behind the scenes, always organizing things, managing events at my job, helping others shine. Maybe it was time I stepped into the spotlight. But first, I had one more twist of fate to witness. And it came sooner than I expected. 2 weeks later, I was sitting at my desk, sipping coffee and going through emails, when I saw a new message pop up in my inbox. The subject line read, "Application, Event Coordinator Position." I didn't think much of it until I opened the attached resume. My heart skipped a beat. It was Vanessa. I blinked at the screen, stunned. The same Vanessa who had slapped me at her own wedding. The same woman whose family had threatened to cancel everything unless I paid for it. She was applying for a job at the very company where I had just been promoted. After the wedding disaster, one of the vendors I had worked with had connected me to a high-end event firm looking for someone experienced in project management. I didn't have a fancy degree in event planning, but my story and how I handled it had quietly made its way to the company's founder. They hired me not just for my skills, but for my grace under pressure. Now, here I was, reviewing applications for a junior coordinator role, and Vanessa's name was right there on the list. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Her cover letter was full of the usual sweet talk: passion for organization, strong communication, team player. I almost laughed. She had been none of those things with me. For a second, I wondered if she even recognized where she had applied. Maybe she didn't know I worked here now. Maybe she was desperate. I could have forwarded her resume to someone else. I could have ignored it. Instead, I did what she never expected. I clicked decline. No revenge. No drama. Just a simple decision. And as I hit send, I felt something lift off my shoulders. She had tried to break me in public. I had walked away in silence. And now, I had closed the door she never imagined I'd be holding. Life started to move in a new direction after that. I had been promoted to senior planning coordinator within 2 months of joining the firm. I managed 3 weddings, 2 corporate events, and a charity gala, all of which ran smoothly. For the first time in my life, people saw me as the leader I had always quietly been. I wasn't just the girl who held things together behind the scenes anymore. I was now the one calling the shots, signing contracts, and designing events with full creative control. My confidence grew. I started waking up each day excited to work. I found peace in structure and joy in details: flower choices, color palettes, guest lists. It was like everything I had learned from that disastrous wedding had shaped me into something stronger. Jordan was doing better, too. He apologized again, privately this time, and we had a long talk over coffee one Saturday. He told me, "I'm ashamed I didn't see it earlier." Vanessa was a wake-up call. I was so caught up in the idea of a perfect life, I didn't notice the people who truly cared. He had moved into a new apartment, started focusing on his work, and even began volunteering at a local community center. I could see it in his eyes. He was healing, slowly but surely. Our bond as siblings grew even stronger after everything. One evening, my dad, who rarely expressed emotions, walked into the kitchen and handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "I'm proud of the woman you are. I should have said it earlier." It brought tears to my eyes. For years, I had worked hard in silence, thinking no one saw me. But now, everything was changing. People saw me, respected me, listened to me, and best of all, I saw myself. Not just as someone's sister, not as a backup, but as someone who finally stood in her own light. A few months later, something unexpected happened that brought everything full circle. Our company was hired to plan a luxury engagement party for a high-profile client's daughter. It was going to be held at the same venue where Jordan's wedding had fallen apart. I hadn't stepped foot in that place since the day I walked out in silence, with my face burning and heartbroken. But when my manager asked, "Alina, you okay handling this venue?" I simply smiled and said, "Absolutely." Walking back through those grand wooden doors, I expected old feelings to flood in, but they didn't. I felt calm, in control, empowered. The staff even remembered me. One of the coordinators approached me quietly and said, "You really made an impression that day. We still talk about how gracefully you handled it." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. The engagement party went beautifully. No drama, no tension. Just laughter, music, and joy. I stood near the back, checking the lighting and timing the food service. It was exactly what I loved, making things perfect for others, without needing the spotlight. Later that night, as I was packing up, the venue owner came over with a smile. "You're not the same woman who left here in silence months ago," he said. And he was right. I had changed. I wasn't the quiet, overlooked sister anymore. I was a woman who had stood through humiliation and turned it into power. A woman who had been betrayed, but came out stronger. A woman who knew her worth and finally lived it. 6 months after the canceled wedding, I found myself sitting alone at a small coffee shop near the office, flipping through my planner. I had just finished coordinating back-to-back weddings and was finally enjoying a rare, peaceful afternoon. That's when Jordan walked in, holding a small gift bag. He sat across from me and smiled. "Don't worry, it's not flowers," he joked. I laughed. "Good. I've had enough of roses this week to last a lifetime." He slid the bag toward me. Inside was a sleek, silver pen with my name engraved on it, and a small card that read, "To the one who saved everything." I looked up at him. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said. "You gave everything and asked for nothing. It took me losing everything to see it." His voice turned serious. "I've met someone," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "She's kind," he added. "Real. And guess what? She already knows about you." I told her you're the one I trust most. I smiled. Not because of the new relationship, but because he had finally grown. Jordan had learned what mattered. Later that night, I walked home slowly, taking the long way, thinking about everything that had happened. Vanessa? I hadn't heard from her again. I didn't need to. Life had already shown her the cost of pride and cruelty. As for me, I had started building something much better than revenge, a life of self-worth, independence, and peace. No social media posts, no public statements, just a quiet victory, a life rebuilt on my own terms. And the next time someone tried to silence me, they'd learn what Vanessa never did. You can't slap away someone who already knows her value, because she won't stay standing in the background. She'll own the whole room.